Eat up. Good morning. I'm Luke. You're watching 5 Acre Farms. We got some hens out here, and these girls lay eggs for us. So, one of the most commonly asked questions on Google, ChatGPT, YouTube, and being in the chicken business, we get asked all sorts of questions. But we have, about every year, somebody asks us, do I need a rooster for my hens to lay an egg? So a lot of people that get chickens live in city limits or, HOAs, even out in the country. But a lot of you guys really don't care to have a rooster or can't have a rooster, but they want to make sure they're getting their eggs, which is the whole reason they got their chickens. So today we're going to answer that. Do you need a rooster to get eggs? Now, pretty simple answer to that, but let's go check out first. So this pen is my pastured pen. This is where I get all my eating eggs. You can see there in the middle is a Rhode Island red rooster. I have a lavender Americana rooster back there. There's a Brahma rooster right up here in the front. Let's see, I should have several roosters out here. I'm gonna go see if we can find a couple more, because you can never have too many roosters, right? Until you buy pullets at Tractor Supply, and half of them are roosters. So, gotta figure out what to do with all these roosters. Again, there's a Rhode Island red rooster. I got mostly Rhode Island reds out here. These are Isa Browns. I got another Rhode Island red rooster right there by the feeder. And then I got my rooster gang over here. There's 3 Rhode Islands back up here. So, and my I am Samani rooster underneath the ramp there. So whenever I can find or raise a Rhode Island red rooster, I try to keep those on hand, because when I'm breeding hatching, needing to hatch sex-link chicks, that's the rooster I need to put over Barred Rocks and Delawares. So I had somebody ask, and I'll make a whole video about this sometime, how to make sex links, but kind of in a short scheme of things, you put a Rhode Island red rooster over a Barred Rock, that gets you a black sex link, or you can put it over a white chicken like a Delaware and get a red sex link. So one of the other questions is, how many hens can I have per rooster? And there's a couple factors you need to think about. Are you going to breed? Are you needing hatching eggs or fertile eggs? Are you just wanting something for protection? Or are you just wanting to hear the sound of a rooster crow in the morning? If you're looking just for breeding, 10 is kind of the number everybody shoots for, to where you're not having overbreeding, but you're still getting fertile eggs, like a high percentage fertile eggs. But you also need to go watch your rooster. Is he breeding hens every 10, 20 minutes? Or have you never seen him breed a hen? And we'll go inside and look at some of these eggs, and I'll show you the difference between a fertile egg and a non-fertile egg, hopefully. And then you'll know if he's actually breeding your hens. But 10 to 1 is kind of the number I shoot for. Since I am selling chicks, like my whole goal is to sell chicks out of my breeders, then I usually bring that number down to about 7, 6 to 7, as long as he's not overbreeding. If he's overbreeding, then I'll either take him out every other week, or I'll add more hens. So, something to think about. Roosters are great flock protectors. There's certain roosters that do a better job at that. Most of your bigger roosters your Brahmas, your Rhode Island Reds, your Barred Rocks. I wouldn't throw in a Serama or a Millefleur or a Silky to take down any type of hawk or predator. I mean, they may try, but I mean, let's be real. So, but that's not, fertile eggs isn't what we're talking about today. Do you need a rooster to get eggs? So I got a basket. Let's see if I can put anything in it. Welcome to the Eggmobile. The only structure I built that's not tall enough for me to stand straight up in. Why I did that, I don't know. But this is our hen gear nesting box. If you've watched my videos, then you know we love this thing. I really need to order about 10 more for my breeder pens, and I think I want to add one more in here because it gets kind of crowded in here. But if you want a hen gear nest box, this is a rollout nest box. Go to Hen Gear's website and use our promo code 5Acre Farm 15. Save yourself $20. Excuse me, ladies. Oh boy, we have a plethora of eggs. Very clean eggs at that. So let's go ahead and collect these. There you go. Basket full of eggs for the morning. Let's take a quick look inside the nest box here. Everybody's getting in line. What's up, ladies? There's plenty of room to spread out. Get your little fluffy butt out of here. You guys laying eggs? So one of the other questions I get pertaining nest boxes are how big of a nest box do I need for X amount of chickens? Well, that's a good question, but it doesn't really matter how many nest boxes you put in there. They're all going to use one. So as you saw, they're all piled on one corner. Chickens want to lay an egg wherever another chicken has laid an egg. So if somebody drops an egg out here in the middle of the grass, give it some time, there's going to be 3 or 4 more dropped out there right next to it. But I've used the like the 10-hole departments. I guess I can show you. I have the Temu one over here on the Millennium feather net. So this is my other pastured setup. There's the guard gooses. We all love the guard gooses. So this is a another style of nest box, and so say there's 6 compartments there. That nest box, in theory, is good to house 60 laying hens. So 10 hens per nest box. Hens don't all lay their egg at the exact same time. They'll come throughout the day. Oftentimes you'll find that middle of the afternoon, or like these hens out here lay eggs usually from about 9 to noon. That's kind of their sweet spot. So you have several hours for your hens to take turns in the nest box. So you don't need, if I have 100 hens here, I don't need a 100 nest box. But usually the rule of thumb is 10 hens per nest box. And it really doesn't matter if you have 10 hens and you give them 6 nest box, they're all going to lay in one nest box. Wherever the egg is laid first, almost all of them are going to want to go into that one nest box. So sometimes it's worth getting some of those wooden eggs or ceramic eggs and putting them in the other nest box to hopefully encourage them to spread out a little bit. But the short answer to do you need a rooster to lay eggs? Short answer is no. There is, I don't know, 10 or 12 roosters in here, and we get a basket full of eggs every day. So a lot of other questions to answer on when is your chicken going to lay eggs, how often is it going to lay eggs, how many eggs do I need to feed my family. Those are a lot of good questions. The main thing is, if you have 100 hens that are of laying age, don't expect to get 100 eggs every single day. So on average, this is not, the Australorp is kind of holding the record at 364 eggs in a year or something like that. Maybe a Leghorn beat it or something. But on average, a good laying hen under a couple years old, kind of in its prime, is going to lay every 24 to 36 hours. So don't expect to have 10 hens and get 10 eggs every single day. That's when everything's nice. Now if your hens stop laying, there's going to be some factors on why. So the biggest factor that most people freak out about is going to be molting. So your chickens will molt twice a year, and when they molt, all their energy goes into making more feathers, new feathers, and not making eggs. Eggs is secondary. It's kind of like deer growing antlers. Like, the more stressed they are, the less likely they're going to grow to their potential. Same with chickens. If they have stress, if you have predators in here every single day, you have hawks flying over every day, you have your neighbor dog harassing them all the time, or your kids chasing them around the yard every single day trying to catch them, stress keeps the chicken from laying eggs. And temperature, which goes back to stress. So if it's 100 plus degrees, we get about half as many eggs as we do on a normal day. And even in the coldest of winter, on winter days, we get less and less eggs. Your other key factor to laying is daylight. So hens lay on X amount of hours of daylight. Usually that 12 to 16 hours of daylight is what you're shooting for. If we let these girls out here lay on natural light, but if you want, you can add a light to your coop to come on for a couple extra hours in the morning in the early spring or winter, when the daylight is less, and you can bump up their egg production. So I do that with my quail. Quail, if you're raising them indoors, that's one of those things you need to think about, is making sure they have 14 to 16 hours of daylight. That triggers their body to produce eggs. So they're still kind of have that wild instinct of like a wild bird that doesn't, there's a reason wild birds lay eggs in the spring. Once that daylight time period hits that magic number for that species, that triggers their internal clock to start laying eggs. So you can manipulate your chickens by adding light. I personally don't. I want my chickens to lay naturally, and not force them to lay. So your chickens only have so many eggs in their lifetime to produce. If you force them to lay too many eggs in the first couple years, you're not going to get near as many eggs in the long run. So say your chicken's going to lay you 600 eggs in its life, if it makes it to 7 or 8 years old. If you try to force it to lay 365 eggs the first couple years, you're going to slow down quite a bit on those last couple years. You can always turn them into soup when they stop laying, but just because your chicken is 3 years old or 2 years old and it stops laying for a couple weeks, don't freak out. Make sure you just give it some time. It's probably molting or heat stress or something. Another big factor is make sure you have good quality food. I run a 20% layer pellet from my local feed mill, Acre Feed. I'll kind of give you a quick glimpse into what my feed looks like. Just a pelletized feed, and seems to work really well. And then I give them scratch every day. So, and then they have free choice of oyster shells to make sure they have a hard shell. Last thing I want to do is sell eggs to my customers and then they just go to pick it up and it shatters in their hand. But oyster shells, and we're really sandy, so I don't give them grit, but they can peck at the sand out here and find little pebbles if they need grit. And the grit is to break down grains, and since their whole food source isn't grains, it's pellets, they don't necessarily need that much grit. So let's run up to the house. Let's crack some of these eggs open and I'll show you how to tell fertile from not fertile eggs. All right, let's crack open some chicken eggs here. A couple of these chickens laid their eggs outside the coop yesterday, so they're a little dirty, and we got an inch of rain last night, so we'll do a whole separate video some other time of washed versus unwashed eggs. But since these are dirty and have been rained on, they need to be either refrigerated or disposed of. Since I have plenty of eggs, I like to feed eggs to our dogs, which is really good for their health and really good for their coat. So I'm going to crack a couple of these open, see if we can't find a fertilized egg and an unfertilized egg. That one I broke the yolk on, so you need to look for a little halo ring to tell if it's fertile or not. Most of these are fertile, which is fine. You can still eat fertile eggs. I don't know if I have good enough light to show you guys. We'll get you in close. Hopefully you guys can see this all right, but a little dark dot right in there, I know it's hard to see, but it gonna look similar to this dot. That one's a fertilized egg. Real easy to tell on this one here. You can see this little white halo around the dot. That's going to mean it's fertilized. Same with this one over here. So you're going to look for a dot. It's going to be a little dark dot. It's hard to tell. Right there, that does not have the halo on it. Are you ready for some eggs, Judy? All right. You guys are getting a little hangry. Whew. They sure love their eggs. But hope that helps you guys out. Determine a fertilized egg from a non-fertilized egg. But again, you do not need a rooster to get your hens to lay eggs. Now, if that rooster helps create a stress-free environment, then maybe a rooster does help. But is it needed? No. But that's all I have for this video. We love you guys. Don't haggle with your egg supplier. Buy your chicks local. We'll see you on the next one.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn.